Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. Just one more minute. So our speaker cannot join the Zoom via his computer because of the KDOT, the Kansas government rules. So he's doing via phone. So he'll be here in a moment. I'm so sorry. Lisa, I'm gonna make you the host for a second, so you can admit the people.
Sounds good. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm gonna share the screen. There we go. Can you all see the PowerPoint presentation here?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, we have our speaker here. Let me share screen for a second. Yes. Okay, so let's start. Thank you for your patience, everyone. So again, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the RTAP bi-monthly webinar series, which is hosted by Kansas RTAP. I'm Nikila or Nikki, and I'll be your today's webinar moderator. Before I introduce our speaker today, I would like to mention a few things. So please feel free to post your names and your agency name in the chat box to see if your friends are here. Please remember to use the chat box if you have any questions during and after the presentation. And for some reason, if you're disconnected, please try logging in again or email me, and I'll be putting my information in the chat box here in a moment. And if you have any other troubles, we do have Lisa here, so she can help you right away. And lastly, this month's Modern Midwest Mobility webinar will be hosted on March 22nd at 1 p.m. and we are having an interesting topic by Metropolitan Energy Center, who will discuss about their exciting exploration into transit's electrified future. You may or may not know the fact that KCI was the first airport in the United States to deploy all electric shuttle buses where MEC played a vital role. And if you would like to know more about it and how it can help your agency, please do register for this webinar, and I'll be posting the link in a moment in the chat box. And you will also be receiving the emails from KUTC soon. So watch out for that. Again, thank you so much for your time and for being here today. So today's webinar. So today's webinar topic is one of the most demanded topic, and there are so many questions that we have been receiving from agencies about it. It is nothing but new CDL requirements that have been effective from Feb 7, 2022. So today we have Brian Brunt, who will be decoding all the mystery questions that we have. So a little bit about Brian. So Mr. Brian Brunt completed his associates in business, bachelor's in management, and his master's in business management, all from National American University in 2017. Brian served 30 years in the United States Marine Corps. After retirement, he served as a location safety manager for a first student in Omaha, Nebraska, and later became the senior safety manager for Safe First Student in Wichita, Kansas, under US 259. He is the state CDL coordinator and oversees the commercial driver examiners. He currently works in the Kansas Department of Revenue Motor Vehicle Division for 11 years, and he loves it. He likes to meet people who wants to grow and develop their lives, as well as having a vision for the future. That's very important to him because without a vision, you all perish. The thing Brian loved most in life is God, wife, family, and country. So I welcome Brian today for being here and helping us in the hour of the need. Hello, Brian. You need to unmute yourself. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I don't have access to the PowerPoint presentation. You might, Nikki, right? Thank you. Appreciate you so much. All right. So what we're going to talk about, and I thank you all for having me here. And if there's anything we can do to make life easier for you, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me or my team. My number will be at the end of this presentation. The entry-level driving training program has been one that we have really been, it's stumping everyone, and there's so many questions I know you want to ask, and I will do my best to field those questions and make sure everything, at least we can try to meet the requirements of the state and as well as FMCSA. The next slide. So the entry-level driving training program, of course, it was the final rule published in December 8th, 2016. Compliance date, obviously, we already passed that. It's February 7th, 2022. The next slide. Let me just keep going. You can read this, you can see that in the beginning, obviously, February 7th, 2022, applicants have to complete complete their training prior to. What this slide is talking about is first time, I can't reiterate enough, first time licensed credential holders who wants to get a CDL for the first time, that's a Class A or Class B, or if they're upgrading from a Class B to an A for the first time. It's also talking about school bus, talking about passengers, and of course, hazmat. Okay, these endorsements are all for first-time drivers or first-time applicants that want to be a CDL holder. Okay, next up. Training providers should already have already listed or already registered to become a TPR at this time. If you haven't, it's easy to do. You can Google Training Provider Registry and it'll bring it up via FMCSA. You can go ahead and get in there and register yourself as a training provider. The curriculums are very easy. Believe it or not, a lot of you are already doing the curriculum now. Not trying to get ahead of myself, but a lot of you are already doing that. An applicant at this time for the state of Kansas, I don't know about any other states, but I know about the state of Kansas, we have allowed these individuals to go to the DMV and to actually go ahead and do their actual CDL written exams. They do not, first off, have to go through a ELDT right off the bat. If they feel they're comfortable and they can do it, they can go ahead and continue to study, come into our DMV, take the written exam, leave with a permit. At that time, they really need to get to an ELDT provider and get trained and get up to speed so we can get them scheduled for the actual physical exam. There are some things we're actually, let me just interject this. There's some things we're actually trying to do here in the state of Kansas to make things more of a smoother transition as I know this is kind of bogging people down throughout the state. I have fielded many of calls and I'm trying to work with everyone I can and make things easier for you. And I have some ideas that might help you and other things we have to just come together and reason together and get things correct. But anyway, on the ELDT, it's a regulation to compliant. We have to be in compliance with these regulations as drivers are selected to actually be trained. Also, drivers must be selected for training as a training provider, those who are listed in the Training Provider Registry. So if you become a training provider, it's simply you're going to be put in a registry and everyone across the nation can figure out where can I go to be trained. That's all that's saying in a nutshell. Okay, Let's go to the next one. These are regulations. I'm not going to go through them all. These are the regulations. I'm not going to go through them all, but we will definitely share this PowerPoint with you. Nikki, I'm sure she would be more than happy to. I don't have a problem with it. You can follow up. It's just talking about the facility have to meet requirements. Vehicles have to meet requirements. Instructors should have at least 2 years of some seniority before you actually put them in with a unskilled driver. These are some of the curriculums, and these are some of the requirements that have to be met, and as well as meeting and keeping records of individuals that come through your actual facility. That's all that is. Let's go to the next slide. To be a licensed, certified, registered, or authority or authorized to provide training in accordance with the applicant's laws, regulations of any state wherein person's training is conducted. Basically, this is saying in a nutshell, you are responsible. Anyone can become a TPR. All right. There are requirements, as I said on the last slide, that you must meet. Training providers must attest that they meet specific requirements. And those requirements are on the last one, the last slide. And like I said, this slide is available to you at any time. So the whole thing we want to in group and I should say, ensure that individuals are meeting FMCSA requirements to become a training provider registry. That's all these slides are actually trying to indicate to you. And they will come and I should say, audit you to ensure that you're meeting the requirements. That's why documentation is very important and verification is very important. Because right now I know that FMCSA don't have a lot of agents in the field, but however, it's important that we have a clear understanding that these individuals, integrity is the key. Let me just say that, integrity is the key. Next slide. Thank you. What are the CLD or CDL requirements or applicants required to do? Well, I already stated, the applicants can come in and take the written exam on their own at any driver's license office without completing the first theory. The first theory is basically, is when an individual comes to your facility and they say, hey, just like we hire someone, they say, hey, I don't have a CDL license. You start gearing that individual up to actually prepare to go down to the driver's license office and take a written exam. Well, now the individual can just go down to the Kansas driver's license, take the written exam without going to theory one. When he comes to you, if there's more things that you need to train or teach him, you can do that. And that's also in the actual description of what's required of the TPR. TPRs will include entities, including public and private CDL training programs, fleet operations, CDL training programs, and etc. That registry is with FMCSA and certified that they will meet the requirements provided for the CDL training. Basically, that's just saying you are required to ensure that individuals are trained properly before you put them behind the wheel. And here's another thing I just want to share with you. I understand if I remove the ELDT out of the equation, we all have been taking liabilities when we actually train an individual coming off the street or training an individual for any farm or whatever the case may be. We training them and we take the liability because that individual, we trust in them to do the right thing as we training them. Well, the ELDT adding it into the equation is nothing more than ensuring that an individual understand by the book, this is what needs to be required, and these are the avenues, and these are the high points we must meet and must hit before an individual can actually just get behind the wheel of a vehicle as we did of old. Next slide. When registering for a training provider, you will submit, of course, the provider's name, contact information, facility name, contact information, type of provider. Is it for hire, not for hire? Is it an in-house? Is it not in-house? These are things we just need to know. FMCFA need to know. Types of training provided, average time that the hours you will train the individual, and average training costs. These are some things you might want to look at. Third parties are different. None of you are third parties, but third parties, we have them across the state, and they have to have certification and have to be accredited. Individuals like that, be it private or non or open or public. So it doesn't make a difference. There's requirements that you have to meet when you're filling out your TPR. Next slide, please. As you can see, we already completed the registrations in 2021, as well as to date. People are still actually, I should say, registering to be a TPR. As you can read here, shortly after the research added or search added, full function of the TPR is already, we're already running with this. So this slide, I don't know why my system put it in there, but this slide is already done. We're already well in full swing of the TPR anyway. Let's go to the next slide, please. There it is. Thank you. This is where I want to get to. Driver certifications. Information submitted to the registry will include driver and trainee's name, date of birth, license, permit number, state of issuance. A question came to me, hey, can another person that's been trained in Colorado and have their ELD come here to Kansas and complete the program? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. This is a nationwide program. So I don't care where they went and got trained at, they can come here and we can finish up the training and hire them and go on about our business. Yes, we can. Okay. Total number of hours clocked, spent behind the wheel, as well as in classroom, if that's the case, but behind the wheel. Training provider's name, location, and training provider ID. And whenever you are registered to become a training provider, you will get an ID number. Date of successful completion. Some of our training providers now actually make up their actual certificate showing the individual when he started, when he graduated, and date of graduation, so he can present that to some of the driver's licenses offices. We don't do that here in Kansas as much. There's very few people that do that. What we do, once you enter your information into the TPR and it goes into their system, they download it into a system called C-STEMs. When an individual walks into the office, what we usually do is take their driver's license number, enter it into our our C-STEM, enter into our C-STEMs, and we can pull up to see if an individual have met all the requirements of the ELDT or not. So that's how we do it here in Kansas. So we really don't need certificates. We just track them as you enter the information into the system itself, TPR. Next. These are some of the links for the Training Provider Registry. I'm not going to go through them. You can see them there on your screen. It's good to write those down. Like I said, it's very important you get with Nikki so she can share this with you guys. This PowerPoint, it helps. It has a lot of good information in there for you. And it gets a little bit more in depth as we go down. Next one. ELDT. Oh, this gets good. Individuals applying for their individual CDLs or initial CDL, excuse me. The initial CDL, this is the first time, this is where a lot of people get confused at. I had a young man come to me and say, hey, Brian, hey, in 2020, I let my CDL go. I said, you did? Why you do that? He said, I let it go, I didn't need it. He said, but you know what? I need it back now. I said, okay, not a problem. He said, do I have to go through the ELDT? Absolutely not. The ELDT is for the first people that are initially coming in. So what you would do if you had it before and you let it go and you want it back, I said simply, you just take your general knowledge, take your combination, take your air brake, get your learner's permit, go practice. I see you in 14 days, come back to me. We get you we'll override the ELDT because you already had your license before, and we get you on out there. Once you pass, of course. But yes, but the initial individuals, that's what it's for. The initial individual upgrades, as I stated before, passenger school bus and hazmat, or upgrade from a B to an A. These things are what the ELDT actually applies to. Next one. As you can see there, I already talked about theory 1 and theory 2. Theory 1 obviously is classroom, written exams, oral exams, lectures, kiosks, any tests, pre-tests that you may have on a computer. That's all theory 1 is, getting individuals prepared to go down to take the written exam at the driver's license office, things that we have already been doing. Obviously theory 2 or behind the wheel or the ELDT, that's when the individual has their permit and they get to get out with an actual instructor, and they teach them how to do the pre-trip. They teach them how to actually do the actual road tests and the actual maneuvers. So that's what that is. Next slide. We went over this before. It just talks about these are the 5 separate curriculums that have to be met when an individual comes for whatever one of these he may or she may come in for. Next slide, please. As I stated before, theory 1 is nothing but lecturing, demonstrations, audio, visual, computer-based driving simulators, and you can use that, and online training. And a lot of J.J. Keller has a whole lot of online training for individuals to take and practice and prepare for. And these you can implement also in your training, in your training facility as you begin to get individuals prepared for lecturing and prepared to go take the written exams, things of this nature. Next slide, please. Also in theory 1, there's more you can do, from vehicle inspections, basic control, shifting, backing. These are things that you actually can implement also into your, which you should implement also, I'm sorry, into your program as you begin to get these individuals up to speed. Hours of driving activity, service, trip planning, things that they need to know if they're doing over the road, or even if they're just working in the state here, doing from one state to another state, or from one end of the state to another end of the state. No big deal. Medical examinations, things of this nature. These are self-explanatory. So I just want you to look at them and know them. Like I said, this presentation is for you at any time you need it. Let's go to the next slide. How do we assess these things? To determine if an individual have met the proficiency, or have they even met the curriculums that we want them to meet? Well, the simple thing to remember is that FMCSA did not require any maximum hours. For one reason, they didn't want to dictate to you what you needed to do. Number 2, the individuals, any test the individuals take must be passed at an 80% or better in order to be, or in order to have successfully passed the actual program itself. So these are pretty easy assessment proficiencies that you need to look at when it comes to theory. A lot of times they say, well, why didn't they put a cap on how much you need to charge? Or why didn't they put a cap on, talking about FMCSA, on how many hours are mandated and all this? For the most part, that is already in those guidelines that I gave you previously. But for the most part, you guys are already doing that, and you're already setting hours. Again, liability lies upon you all. You're not gonna let an individual behind the wheel of a vehicle and he only been there or she only been there a matter of hours. That dog don't hunt. So you wanna make sure that you guys are pretty much already well ahead of the number of hours that you have. Some people have 40 hours classroom. Some people have 60 hours classroom. Some people have 60 hours out there behind the wheel. It is how you feel. But you remember, you want to put a safe driver out on the road, because these individuals are representing you. Next slide. This theory also, instructors must have an appropriate class. And this is where I talked about your instructors. You want to ensure that your instructors are qualified, at least have 2 years, and can actually maybe, be able to actually speak to an individual. I'm trying to pick the right words. My brain just went left field. And be able to actually talk to an individual and make sure they understand what they're trying to relate to these individuals as we move forward. It's very important that we understand that individuals, as they do their behind the wheel, that instructor is going to be in the vehicle with them. So this is what we always been doing. Nothing changed. And of course, the application state, the CMV instructor, it must meet all the requirements also. So the theory instructors qualifications is very important to me because they're representing you. And as they go out with the individual or applicants, we want to make sure and ensure that the individuals understand exactly what we're trying to convey to the applicant prior to moving to the next segment. Next slide, please. This question came up to me. I believe in allowing the retired, CMV drivers who may have many years of experience to actually work into your program or work with your program. But the problem I had previously is that some of them have given up their CDLs and they want to come back and they want to get into this program. They want to help certain companies. By all means, since you already had it once, it's nothing more than you getting it back again, and you can do that easily. The instructors must apply who previously possessed a CDL, but no longer possess a CDL. The instructor can yet teach an individual in the classroom. In the classroom. I want to make sure we understand that. They can be classroom instructors, even if they no longer have their CDL. They had it before, but they can be classroom instructors. Classroom instructors are not behind the wheel instructors. Two different beasts. Next slide, please. Of course, you want to make sure and ensure that your instructors qualify and ensure they didn't have their license canceled, suspended, or revoked. Next slide, please. The behind the wheel trainer will actually, that's individual, as I stated earlier, would actually help them on the range, on public roads. This individual would simulate or meet requirements, no minimum hours. FMCSA did not give us no minimum hours, so obviously you have your hours already in your curriculum. Training provider determines whether the driver is proficient or not. That's why you want to make sure you have an excellent trainer with you there. Next slide. These are actually the skills they still have to do at this time. This will change probably down the road a little bit, but right now, of course, you have pre-trip, and then en route, and then post-trip. And of course, when you get to the actual skills course, you have a straight line back, alley dock, you have offset backing to the left or to the right, and you have parallel park from the blind side and then parallel park from the sight side. So those things never went away. They're still there. And the same thing you practice, it's the same thing you're going to have to implement in this program. No big deal. When you're on the road test, public road test, things we have to work on is downshifting, shifting. Some people float their gears. I don't have a problem with it. And then actual speed, space, management, things of this nature. Preaching to the choir here, this is what y'all been doing. I just want to ensure that we continue to do it. And these are the things that are implemented into the actual ELDT. Next slide. And this continues with hours of service, hazardous perception, as well as railroad crossing, night operations. I don't know how many of y'all do night driving or train them in that. Skid control, things of this nature. This is all behind the wheel. Next slide. Here it, oh, next slide, I'm sorry. Thank you. Here, the instructor must cover all topics listed, determine and document that each driver and trainer and trainee, as we went on before, have met all qualifications and proficiently and proficient in everything that they're about to do behind the wheel prior to going out on the road on their own, or prior to coming down to be tested by a driver's license or third party. Next slide, please. As we covered this, you know about theory 1, theory 2, behind the wheel. I don't want to be redundant. It's the same thing, same training. Next slide. We talked about training providers' qualifications, which can include training schools, educational institutions, rural, electric, co-op, motor carriers, state, local government, school districts, joint labor management, owner operators, and individuals. It covers everything. So I encourage individuals to become a TPR. Next slide. I don't want to be redundant, but obviously it talks about instructors, state licensing, vehicle, facilities, and curriculum. Those 5 things are very important that an individual who's becoming a TPR must have and must be able to show FMCSA and state and meet all state requirements. Must have instructors, state licensing, vehicles, facility, and also curriculums must meet the curriculum. Must meet the curriculum. Next slide. So this here is all electronically done. After a driver has successfully completed the requirement training, the driver, the TPR must electronically submit the driver information and show that the driver's certifications and information have been met. They must submit this by midnight of the 2nd business day after the driver has completed all of the training. The Kansas Driver's License Office, as I state again, will use C-STEMs to verify and to complete process of an applicant once they come into the driver's license office. Next slide, please. Again, this is a FMCSA. You can go and register, and also you can also follow up on a lot of the information or questions you may have. I'm trying to field some of those for you today. Next slide. And it says, how will training provider register? As I stated earlier, you can go online. You can just type in Training Provider Registry. It'll bring it up, FMCSA. You go in there and just fill it out. Follow the prompts. It's very easy. And it asks, do you want to be a training provider? And just follow the prompts. Just that easy. Next slide. We went over this. How would training providers submit driver's data? We admit that you're a registered training provider. We use the log that they give them for the Training Provider Registry, upload the information, and the information gets sent in. You can use this by actually using the developed toolkit that we have right there on that link I have right there for you. You can link that in and it brings everything up for you to actually just upload all the information in there. Next slide, please. Here's my information, point of contact if you need to get a hold of me. I am here at the central city in Wichita, Kansas. I can go anywhere in the state in a matter of 3 hours. I can be anywhere. If you're closer, I can come quicker. But for the most part, what we're trying to do here on this side of the house, the state side of the house, our team, my CDL team I have in place here, I have a nucleus of a CDL team that I have, that we will actually come and we want to come and help and actually support you as much as we can. I send individuals out to be a success, to make you a success and to help you become a success. So a lot of states don't do that. A lot of states just leave it up to you. But on our side of the house, Kansas, we like to become a little bit more personable with the CMVs and everyone and our providers. We just want to be personal with them and help them as much as we can. So please, by all means, don't hesitate to write down that information. We're here for you. And if you have any other questions, I'm here for you. Thank you, Nick.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much. This is so wonderful information and it is very detailed out. So, and thank you. I think I'll also share the presentation that you have sent to me for all the registrants who are on the call today. So if they have any questions, they will reach out to you. And let's see if we have some questions here. So we do have our very first question. So would you clarify the size and the number of riders per CDL?
The number of, say that again.
The size and number of riders for the
Oh,
CDL.
the providers?
Yeah, I
the
guess
CDL?
so, yes.
Yeah, if I'm understanding, right now, the state of Kansas, if I remember the last count we had, I think we right around 250, if not more, providers for the state of Kansas. And that's including our third parties as well as some of our partners in the state here.
So Brian, I think the question on this one is what size of vehicle and how many riders in the vehicle plus the driver is needed for a CDL?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. The size of vehicles usually 18-wheeler vehicles, and they usually have 1, 2, 3, 4. The back seat, the bed has been taken out, so they put like 3 captain's chairs back there with seat belts and everything, and 1 in the front seat. That's the actual exam. So it's 4 people in a vehicle. You can have that up to 4 people. School bus drivers usually have up to 2 and 1 instructor. So it plays different roles on the type of vehicle you may have at that time. Yes, ma'am.
So it's more related to how, in order, okay, how do I ask this? At what size of vehicle and at what passenger size do you need to have a CDL?
Oh, if you're carrying passengers, one individual asked me, he had a 15-pack vehicle van. I said, no, you can drive regular. But when you start getting into 16, and that includes the driver, you're going to need a CDL for that. I'm trying to say, I have an individual that has a truck and trailer. He goes around doing odd jobs, stuff like that, but it doesn't come over the weight of 26,001 pounds combined. He's pretty much good to go. He doesn't need a CDL in that capacity. That's another one I can help you with that perhaps may help give some clarity to this. School bus drivers need to have one. And I guess the lowest one would be the individuals that carry the smaller buses. Sometimes don't meet the requirement sometimes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Brendan with City of Dodge City. I think a lot of us in this area right now, we are, I know we are 16, 17, 18 passengers. That is with probably counting 2 wheelchairs and then the driver.
Yeah.
Some of them are questioning probably, do we need a CDL? And then if we wanted to downsize, with right now, that's going to be a little difficult for us. Some of them out here in Southwest Kansas to get, we're having troubles already right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Getting CDL drivers. So
Yes,
let's
ma'am.
say here this next year, if we're wanting to downsize, to a smaller vehicle so that we can at least have some of our staff non-CDL.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if that would be something that we could look into, because right now we're just struggling, getting people on board. And then I think with this new requirements, that's just going to make it extra harder to get, or extra, more difficult for us to get anybody.
Yeah. Very, very difficult. Yes,
Yes.
yes, very difficult. I have been asked that question before. Brian, can I downsize? By all means. By all means, you can. And it just puts you right underneath the radar. Yes, by all means, you could downsize.
Yeah, but
right.
I'm sorry, Brian. But even though we have our, we've already ordered, even for our agency, we've already put in an order for a couple more buses, but that might be something that, I don't know what the whole specification on, or what we need to do to downsize so that we can get more drivers, or, have more drivers available on our staff for that. But I think that's where we're at. We're looking at the weight of the vehicle, how many passengers we can have. And I'm not sure what else. Maybe Sandra can help me out a little bit, or Rhonda from Finney County. But I think that's some of our questions out here in Southwest Kansas, where our fleet is maybe 30 vehicles. Mine is right now is like 10 with only 8 drivers. So we're a small agency, but we transport many passengers.
Oh, yes, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Yes, now that's something that your, I should say, your district or your transportation manager, y'all gonna have to really sit down and kind of hammer this thing out. The only thing I do is recommend, yes, you can downsize, but you already started investing also in other buses. So as I sit here and listen to what you're stating, I'm like, yeah, right now that 16 passenger, yeah, you're gonna need a CDL with the wheelchairs and that, yeah, you're gonna need a CDL for that. And there's, I can't get around that. I didn't write the regulations, but for the most part, you downsize, yes, there are school districts that downsize that already letting mom and dad drive the kids to school and everything because they're affiliated with the school. They sign on with the school to help the school and they help get the kids from point A to point B, the young children. So yes, ma'am. I mean, that's a decision you're going to have to make because right now I know the ELDT is not going away anytime soon. So yes, ma'am, that is a decision you're going to have to make whether or not you're going to downsize or not. If you downsize, you definitely make it. You will make it under the wire. If you where you are right now. And I know it's hard getting CDL drivers, especially for school buses or the school bus industry. Trust me, I've been working with First Student and Durham and all of them. It's a headache. It's a headache right now.
So we have another question, Brian, about downsizing basically or capacity. So Alicia Riggs asks, they have buses that were originally made for 20 passengers, but they have been modified to be wheelchair accessible. When we're looking at whether it needs to be a CDL driver or not, do we go off the original capacity of the vehicle or what is modified to hold?
You go off the original, what came off the assembly line, what came out of the manufacturer specs. You have to go off that.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
And then another one is, are tanker endorsements covered under this new guidance, or do you still simply get a test, Kansas driver's license test?
Yeah, only thing you do for a tanker endorsement is go down to the DMV, take a written exams, and we just add an endorsement on there. You don't have to go to the ELDT for that. Let me just, can I implement this real quick too? Just say this, just so everyone would understand. I had an individual say, hey, Brian, I want to remove my air brake restriction. And I said, well, just bring your vehicle up. We're going to test you. And it calls for no driving and it calls for no behind the wheel. It's a pre-trip. And once they pass that pre-trip, we take them in there, remove the restriction off their license. You can go ahead and drive an air brake vehicle. That does not constitute you going to the ELDT. You don't have to do it for that. You don't have to do it for what you just spoke. You don't have to do that.
Okay. Are there any other questions we have from folks?
We do have one more from Joseph. So are tanker endorsements covered under this new guidance or still simply a test at Kansas DL?
I just asked that question, Nikila.
Yeah,
I apologize.
That is correct. That's okay. That's correct. You just go down to the DMV and take the written exam. I had people doing any other type of endorsements beside the S&P endorsement and hazmat. All the rest of those other endorsements are just written exams.
Okay.
I had a question
Yes, sir.
with buses, and I put it in there, maybe you answered it. At what point does it go from a regular license, how many people weight-wise, to then going to a CDL? Right now, we have a very small bus, and I just want to make sure with this new listing that I'm in where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, sir. 16 passenger or more. That includes driver.
Thank you for answering that again.
Sure, no problem, sir.
Any other questions from folks?
Okay, we see none. So again, I'll be sharing the slides with you all right after this meeting, and this meeting has been recorded and we will be posting the link. I mean, we'll be posting on YouTube and we'll share it with you as well. So yes, do subscribe, and any questions anytime. After today, please feel free to email Brian or even to us. We'll be happy to help you with any questions that you might have.